Hello, and thank you for joining me in the Purpose Zone. If you want to continue to get content from me, make sure that you hit that subscribe button and click the bell so you'll be notified the next time I put out a video. 2020 has been a year of a lot of unexpected things. Some of us have seen losses, the unexpected losses in our families, amongst our friends and family members. Some of us have been blessed to keep functioning and thriving in the midst of everything that's been going on with the pandemic. Some of us have been battling that quarantine weight gain thing. Some of us have lost our jobs. Some of us have ended up downsizing our lives in ways that we didn't expect to. But I want to encourage you that your life still has purpose. You still have a destiny to pursue. You know, I don't believe that purpose and destiny are the same things. I believe that destiny is the journey and purpose is one of many ultimate destinations that we can have in our lives. So I want to encourage you today that if you are still wanting to pursue your dreams, if you still have hope for your future, if you need a little boost to keep going, let me say this right off the bat. Stop waiting for other people. Stop waiting for better circumstances. When you have decided that you believe in yourself enough to go forward, everything is not going to be perfect. Things are not going to be right all the time. The season of preparation is just as important as the actual process itself. If you want to start a business, if you want to start a YouTube channel, if you want to write a book, if you've got some dreams and some hopes of doing some things that no one around you has that type of interest, make a decision to get started. While you're collecting data, while you're jotting notes, while you're doing your research, while you're investigating, while you're toiling away, burning up the midnight oil, making decisions and plans towards that thing, those efforts are not wasted time. But you need to understand that there's never going to be an ideal time to get started. So don't wait for circumstances to get better. That's never going to happen. As you start to pursue your purpose, doors are going to open and divine connections with people, places, and things are going to happen. I have found that when you're actually on your destiny journey, making those destiny steps toward what it is that you want to do with your life, you start connecting with people, places, and things that you never would have thought that you were ever going to run into or make connections with. The next thing you need to do is you need to know your issues. As a woman, I know that we women identify with our issues. We're always focusing on those things that concern us. Oh my Lord, I've got pimples. I'm not pretty enough. I weigh too much. I'm lonely. There's just all these things. I don't make enough money. I'm not attractive enough. My car's not nice enough. We focus on all these issues in our lives instead of focusing on who we are and our value and our self-worth. Let's stop identifying, ladies, with our issues, because identifying with our issues cause us sometimes to make some unwise choices because we feel like we can't do any better than this. We don't deserve any more than this. There may be a certain type of man that you want in your life, in a relationship, but you're criticizing yourself so much that when you meet guys of certain caliber, you're afraid to even open your mouth. It is time for us to recognize the jewel that we are. What are the good things that you possess? What are your strengths? What are the things that you like about yourself? Let's start elevating ourselves mentally so that we can propel ourselves forward intentionally. Be willing to change directions. This third strategy I feel is particularly important because I have found that as I have conquered different goals in my life and made different destiny journeys to get to certain purposes in my life, I have found that I've been surprised at how many things or how many times I've had to change some things in my life. Changing direction can be as minimal as changing your mind. Getting a new perspective, getting a different outlook, getting a fresh wind, getting a fresh start. But you have to be willing to embrace a change that might take you in a different direction that you didn't expect to go, that might actually give you a connection that you didn't ever expect to make. People will surprise you about the knowledge that they have, sometimes in a passing conversation that will be the key nugget that you need to take yourself to the next level. So keep yourself open to the possibility that you may have to change some things. You may have to change your mindset. I have been a public speaker for a number of years, and I decided that I would go back through some of the old tapes that I had, old recordings that I had of different places that I spoke at, different radio broadcasts that I've been a part of. And oh my Lord, there were some of them that I just had to throw out because my mind has gone to such a different, deeper, better level than what I used to talk about back then that I was like, I don't want people to hear this. I have evolved. That is not me anymore. I have grown and times have changed. I had to go back and edit a book that I wrote in the early 90s because back then there were no blogs, there were no cell phones, there were none of the modern conveniences that we have today that actually gave a different impact on the book that I had written. So I had to update and add some different information to make it more relevant for today. So let's start looking at our mental relevancy. Have we got different mind traps and mindsets that are keeping us locked in another dimension that we need to come up out of? Establish some new spiritual foundations. That's one of the things that I also discovered while I was listening back to some of my old tapes and radio broadcasts and things, that down through the years, I've been fortunate enough to have grown up in a military family. Therefore, I got to travel a lot. And then going into the military myself, I got to continue to travel, which meant that every time I got to a new duty station, I had to find a new church home. And many times, those choices were things that totally changed my life. Getting into a new teaching, under a new leadership, hearing a new, fresh approach to the spiritual truths that I already knew, many times helped me to grow beyond where I thought that I could ever go. And then the opposite was also true. In that hunt for a new spiritual home, for a new church home or a new church body to fellowship with, sometimes I'd get to a new place. I remember when I first went to Alabama. It was very interesting. The very first church that we visited, my sons were in 9th and 10th grade, I believe, at the time. And my kids were bored. They were like, oh my Lord, what is that guy saying up there? It was so, I hate to say beneath them, but the maturity level of the word that was coming forth at that particular church, my kids were bored with. And I was like, okay, we need to find a church that is at least as mature and as knowledgeable in the word as my 9th and 10th grader. So there were things that I learned about how much we had grown personally that I probably would not have looked at in that way had we not had that experience. So be willing to establish some new spiritual foundations. Sometimes that simply means buying a book by someone that you may not necessarily have the opportunity to go and hear them speak all the time. But they may have written something about a certain place in your life where you feel like you need to grow spiritually. But you need to establish some new roots so that you can go deeper. I remember a church that I went to when I was in the military, and I was only stationed in that place. I was just there for a temporary length of time. And the pastor just preached about salvation, 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 how to accept the Lord into your life. And that's all he preached about. In the meantime, I was dealing with very serious issues at my job where I was in an administrative position. I also had a business where I had two people working for me at the time, and there were some decisions that I had to make concerning them. And I was very comfortable in my personal walk and my spiritual walk, but I needed more wisdom about all these other things that I was having to deal with every day. And so as much as I loved those people and as much as I loved that church, I knew that I needed more. Of course, during that season, that temporary time I was there, it made me have to dig into my Bible a little deeper and study more and pray harder. But sometimes you get put into a situation like I was in that temporary position where you realize I need a little bit something more. And that's a good thing. When you recognize areas in your life where you need to grow, tap into it, take it as a lesson for yourself, make it a personal project for yourself, because these are the things that are going to help you grow. And it's going to help you grow when you're going through a difficult time or when you're in a transitional period in life, like so many of us might be experiencing right now in these days of the epidemic. Make changes in your own life. It is so easy to point out everyone else's deficits, but taking time to be retrospective and introspective takes a little bit more gumption, takes a little bit more time, takes a little bit more deep consideration. Sometimes there are roads that we don't want to travel back on, even mentally, to investigate how could I have done that different? What did I learn from that experience, so that as I move forward, I will take the good things I've learned from that into my future, or I will eliminate some of those bad choices I made before, so I won't do that again. But making changes in your own life is very important. It is so easy, especially when you're moms and dads. It is so easy to point out other people's deficits. I mean, that's what moms and dads are here for, to tell our kids, no, don't stop, quit. At the same time, we are also supposed to be encouragers and motivators and people that discover the inner things. Sometimes we see inner strengths and talents and abilities in our kids or in our best friends or in our family members that they haven't looked at themselves, or they haven't had the courage to admit to themselves. So when it comes to our own personal life, we're so used to looking outward that sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to look inward. Take the time, make the time, because you are so worth it. Take the time to make changes in your own life. What is eating at you? What keeps popping up over and over again that is something maybe you've worked on for years, or you wish you could do differently, that you wish you could have overcome for a long time? It may not be important to other people, but it's important to you. It could be something that's been pointed out to you by other people and you just haven't mastered it yet. Take the time to start tweaking yourself, thinking to yourself, talking to yourself, doing your motivational self-talk and encouragement and introspection and retrospection. Even if it means you may have to go back to someone and say, look, I apologize. I noticed I did X, Y, Z when I was talking to you yesterday, or when I was around you yesterday. And that I want you to know that I recognize that that's an issue with me. I want to apologize to you, and I want you to know that I'm working on it. That lends some accountability to what you're working on in your own life. You don't have to go and blurt out every personal issue that's going on in your life. I don't mean for you to take it that way, but I'm saying do what you need to do to be accountable, to take care of those situations in your life that you're trying to improve upon. The last strategy: stop waiting for other people to help you. Stop waiting for other people to do things for you. I was talking to, a couple of years ago, a young lady. She was 23, 24 years old, and she was working her first job. And she had been at this job since she had graduated from high school. So it was the only job she had ever had. And I remember talking to her one day in the library, and she said, you know, I have learned so much and I've accomplished so much as far as my growth and everything on this job. And she says, I really want to get promoted. I feel like I deserve it. I've been there longer than any of the people that I'm working with right now. And she said, I thought that if I just kept my head down and just did the work, that eventually my leadership would notice how good I was and how good I was doing, and they would just automatically promote me. She says, but I think she said she'd been on that job at that point for about 4 years. And she says, I've watched other people come in and get promoted ahead of me, and I just don't know what to do about it. She says, because I have learned everything and I've done extra studying on the outside so that I'm really informed well and stuff for my job. And she says, I've even started going to school. She says she was taking 1 or 2 college courses. She says, eventually I want to get my degree. She says, I want to be the best person I can be for this job. She says, but no one seems to notice the hard work that I've done and how well I'm doing. And I said to her, no, you're young. This is your first job. And I said, this is probably not something that you're used to hearing. I said, but let me ask you one question. Have you let your leadership know that you're interested in being promoted, that you're interested in going further, that you're interested in being committed to your company for an extended period of time, that you want growth where you are? And she goes, oh, I didn't think that was allowed. I didn't think that you could let a supervisor or somebody know that you're interested in being promoted. And I asked her, I said, do you get the opportunity on your job to, how you have to do your performance evaluations every year? Do they call you in the office and talk to you about your future goals with the company and how you've done this year and that kind of thing? And she said, yes. And I said, well, if you don't know how to approach them just on your own to let them know that you want to grow more with this company, I said, when it's time for your yearly or every 6-month evaluation, however they do it with you on the job, that's when you let them know when they ask you, what are your future goals? Tell them, I'm interested in getting the necessary skills that I need to go to this other position or to be promoted to this next step, and let them know you want to stay with this company until you retire. I said, whatever your goals are, sometimes you have to speak up for yourself. Sometimes we're waiting for other people to notice us. Sometimes we're waiting for other people to promote us, when there is actually the capability within your own hands for you to promote yourself, for you to develop yourself, for you to put yourself out there, or for you to take yourself to the next level. And maybe you're working a job temporarily while you're going to school because you really want to be something else. Maybe you're working as a medic, but you want to be a pilot, or you're working at Walmart, but you want to be an accountant. Do what you have to do to get to where you're going, to get to where you wish to go, and stop waiting for other people to open those doors for you and to do it for you. Stop waiting for other people to notice you and make things happen for you. There are things in your life that you've got to employ your own personal strategies to make those things happen for yourself. In the meantime, thank you so much for joining me. In the meantime, I want to continue to encourage you to create strategies and connect with resources so that you can rebuild your life or take your life to the next level where you wish to go. Remember to respond to the cry of your purpose and go out there and do your destiny. See you in the zone. Thank you for joining me.